On today's episode of Gordie's Detroit Sports Catch-Up, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Detroit Lions free agency signings, or lack thereof. Did Brad Holmes do enough, and is he finished? We're also going to be taking a look at the Red Wings' current March catastrophe. It seems like we have this every March, but Larkin, Kopp, Rasmussen, MBN, all hurt. Back-to-back losses. It's getting ugly for the Detroit Red Wings. We'll talk about that. And lastly, we're going to take a quick look at if Kevin McGonigal is going to make the opening day roster. All that and more next on Gordie's Detroit Sports Catch-Up. Hello everybody, welcome back to Gordie's Detroit Sports Catch-Up. This is segment 1. Today we're going to start with the Detroit Lions. So I wish I had, better news. I wish I would be in a better mood when I was talking about, this topic. I would really do miss being very excited for my Lions, but right now I'm cautiously optimistic at best. But the Lions go out and sign Cade Mays, Isaiah Pacheco, Tyler Conklin, and a few other guys. There's certain spots where, I think he did a good job at adding some much-needed veteran depth, something that I think we definitely lacked last year, especially you look at, some case instances in the offensive line with guys like Coyote Awosika or, Sorsdahl coming in. Those were not effective depth pieces. There's a couple other positions that come to mind. But I think barring one specific position, but it's a really big deal, this position, I would be very happy with this offseason so far. I mean, you lost a couple of guys. It sucks. For example, Alex Anzalone, he's definitely going to be missed. No doubt about it, he's going to be missed. But, looking at his contract, it's like, okay, we can't pay that much for our third linebacker if we're already this committed to Barnes, and we're going to have to commit very soon to Jack Campbell. So, you can't throw around too much money in one specific position group, especially when you have two guys that are going to be making, between $50 and $70 million a year per, each of them. So, yeah, I like some of the re-signings. I'll definitely, I'll touch on that real quick. Rock Ya-Sin, Trevor Nowaski, and our guy, Tom Kennedy. All quality depth pieces that this team definitely needed last year and will continue to need next year. So having those guys back is a big relief. Nextly, I look at some of the newer guys, right? First thing first, we got a Tyler Conklin. I got to give a shout out. He's a local guy, L'Anse Creuse North, Macomb guy, and went to Central Michigan University. He's coming to us from a 1 or 2 year deal in with the LA Chargers. So shout out. Having another solid backup, tight end is always going to be helpful, especially with Drew Petzig, the new offensive coordinator, who loves to run three tight end sets more than anyone else at the league at a pretty staggering rate. So get used to seeing Tyler Conklin on the field this upcoming season. Next bigger signing that I want to talk about, and don't worry, I'll address the elephant in the room when it comes to signings. Just hold on. Is Isaiah Pacheco. So, at first I was cautious about the move because the contract details hadn't fully been revealed. But for, what was it, like $1.6 million, that is an absolute steal. And you go from paying your backup running back $9 million a year to $1.6 million a year. For the way this team is constructed right now, that is extremely helpful. And yeah, I listen, I loved David Montgomery here in Detroit, but as Jahmyr Gibbs got better and better, and the writing has kind of always been on the wall for David Montgomery. Jahmyr Gibbs has the potential to be the best running back in the NFL, and you haven't paid him yet. Are you going to continue to pay the backup running back 2 that much money when he's not getting, let's put it like this, you're going to give him half as much money as your running back is getting per year when he's not even getting half as many carries as, your running back 1, your Jahmyr Gibbs? It's bad math. It's very simple. It's bad math. So, when I look at letting a Dave Montgomery walk, as much as it pains me emotionally, from a economic standpoint, I totally understand. Another little thing, if we're talking about economic standpoint, that I think was pretty important for the Lions that happened this previous week was Jared Goff restructuring his contract, freeing up what I believe was about $30 million of cap space that helps us go out and probably get some of these guys. And I think a lot of it as well is going to be used for drafting this new class of free agents and paying these guys. That's something a lot of people forget about. So they see, $30 million. We got $30 million. Let's go get Max Crosby. Let's go get Trey Hendrickson. It's not realistic, guys. You still need at least $12 million to sign your rookie class. And with the amount of draft picks that Brad Holmes has with this upcoming draft, he's going to be dishing out a lot of money, especially because there's a lot of holes on this roster, a lot of depth pieces that need to be filled. So a lot of these picks are going to be very important and are going to get some time. But I just was something I wanted to touch on real quickly about the whole Jared Goff restructuring. The big move that I think that Jared Goff restructuring move really allowed you to make was the signing of center Cade Mays. That's my favorite signing, and it's also the biggest of this free agency period. He's got the mental tools. From little clips that I've watched, he's constantly pointing out a blitzing linebacker or making the pre-snap reads, making Jared Goff's life easier. And for Goff to have a center that actually plays center, not just Graham Glasgow, but somebody who's cerebrally his head is entirely in the game, and he knows precisely what he's doing at his position and is able to make these call-outs before the snap, it's going to make Jared Goff's life that much easier. And he is an absolute stalwart in the pass game. He's got great stats, whether you want to use PFF or any other football rating analysis website. I've checked a few. He rates out very well. The only area where I am a little bit concerned is in the run game. He is very good at getting up to the next level, but there's a little bit of a lack of athleticism that I've noticed that makes him a little bit clumsy in the run game while, pulling or, shedding a block, getting down, or, shedding a D tackle, crossing the face of, the three tech, getting downhill quickly. That's something that I would like to see more improvement, but he's already foundationally, he's already at a great level. Cade Mays, he's pretty young, so he's got more room to grow. I think this is a guy that can potentially be an all-pro for the Detroit Lions. And hopefully we get to see that relatively soon, whether that's this season or next season. I have pretty high expectations for Cade Mays. Let's talk about a favorite, Teddy Bridgewater, who is back with the Detroit Lions for one more year. It's kind of funny seeing this guy retire, then come back, then retire, then come back. But, oh well. I don't mind, especially because there's no way he's not getting the veteran minimum. I mean, let's be honest. And if so, then I don't know. Dan Campbell's convincing Brad to slip him in some incentives or whatever. But I'm not going to spend too much time on Teddy Two Gloves. I like him, but hopefully we never see him play until it's garbage time and we've clinched a playoff spot or it's a meaningless game. Let me see here. Just looking at my list. Let's touch on Larry Borom. So, Larry Borom, I don't know what to say about his game necessarily. I haven't seen too much, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. I know that he's a Brother Rice guy, so, local guy, right on. He's getting $5 million a year. So, as things stand, he's probably going to be our starting left tackle. And that concerns me. That concerns me a lot. Everything that I've seen from fans online of other teams, whether it's Miami, I think Chicago fans are also piping off quite a bit. Just wait till Detroit sees Larry Borom. Yeah, I'm kind of nervous. I mean, you're going from a Taylor Decker who was a proven commodity in this offensive line to Larry Borom, who 6-7 months ago was getting obliterated by Aiden Hutchinson in training camp and basically created what we all heard as the Hutch rule. So forgive me if I'm not very confident in the upside of offensive or left tackle Larry Borom, but yeah. Anyways, one area that I do like a couple of these signings, at least on the surface, I like these signings, is what they did in the DB room. First of all, I want to talk about Christian Izien. There's a trend with both these guys, but he's a nickelback kind of guy. Take a look at this photograph. That was terrible. Sorry. Yeah, he shorter guy playing the kind of the nickelback corner hybrid position. Gonna be basically our Amik Robertson fill-in. Not sure what that was. So, as a solid depth piece, we maybe see him one or two guys. The legion of whom is expanding. I'll put it like that. Rocky Sin is back. I don't know. I know Avonte Maddox is probably gone. Some of these other guys are probably still floating around, if we're being honest. Roger McCreary, cornerback out of the Tennessee Titans. He was traded last season from the Rams to the Titans. Shorter guy. He's got a few picks, but it makes me very concerned that both of these guys are under 6 foot. And this is a defense that loves to play man. Shep is going to have to make some big changes with the personnel that he has currently. You have DJ Reed, Izzian, and McCreary. All three of these guys are short as hell. Terrion Arnold, and if Ennis Rakestraw plays, maybe that's your longer receiver, but that's a guy that I can't put any faith in because he's never played. It's an Emmanuel Mosley all over again, basically. So I don't like to see that at all. I'm really hoping that we play a lot more zone defense this upcoming season and, learn a lesson from how badly we were getting picked apart last year. With the way this current roster is constructed, we are not going to be able to pressure the quarterback at all. So I know the draft hasn't happened yet. I'm well aware, but I'm still not confident that the Detroit Lions can get to the quarterback, stop the long pass. I've got a lot of questions for the defense. Not quite as many on offense, but the defense, yeah, a lot of questions. The biggest one being, what in the hell is happening at the defensive end position? Brad, what, you didn't want to do anything? You think Ahmed Hassanin is going to be the, second coming of, I don't know, Michael Strahan? Like, dude, it's not... I don't know what to tell you. It's a 6th-round pick for a reason. Listen, I like Ahmed Hassanin, but I'm not confident that he's going to amount to being a proven starter or let alone a close to double-digit sack, recorder that can be an effective bookend alongside Aiden Hutchinson. I'm not convinced. As it stands right now, you have one edge rusher on your roster that's worth a shit, and it's Hutch. And he, coming off of a broken leg 2 years ago, we saw he looked like he kind of lost a step. I mean, he still had a great year, but I noticed often throughout last season that motor that was my favorite part about Hutch wasn't there. He would take plays off. He would get complacent when, getting walled off on a double team. When previously, his rookie year, second year, we were seeing highlights of him splitting double teams, still not giving up on the play, running around, a halfback, and still finding a way to get to the quarterback. I didn't see a whole lot of that last season, and that's something that he can't be expected to shoulder the entire load of the pass rush. That's a ridiculous standard to set. You have, a few D tackles that are, okay at getting after the quarterback. Mainly I'm looking at Ali McNeil, but if he plays defensive end again, I'm going to lose my mind. I am not prepared for snaps, daily snaps, or game-by-game snaps of Ali McNeil at defensive end. I can't take it. I will turn the TV off and walk away and I don't know, go enjoy the weather or something. It's ironic because it's played in the winter, but whatever. Yeah, not happy. Not happy at all. When it comes to the draft, I am really hoping to see a lot more aggression than in free agency. And that's normally what Brad Holmes' MO is being very aggressive in the draft and just, plugging up a few holes during free agency. But this year, there was so many holes by the amount of guys that walked off, you weren't able to plug them all. So now you go into this draft with that much more of a sense of urgency because there's so many questions. And you need so many guys to contribute, and not enough of them are here currently. And that really frustrates me. I think you'll add maybe 1 or 2 guys after training camp cuts, but how many spots are open on this roster, and how many legitimate contributors do we need on the Detroit Lions? The answer is a lot. And Brad Holmes is a great drafter, but he's not going to be batting 1,000 with these draft picks. We know that for a fact. I mean, look at the draft 2 years ago, the Terrion Arnold draft, the one that was here in Detroit. Terrible draft. Absolutely terrible draft. Like, objectively, just did not work. Giovanni Manu, Ennis Rakestraw, those guys, were taken within the top 4 or 5 rounds. Trash. They've done nothing. They've done absolutely nothing to contribute to the Detroit Lions and their chances of winning. And Terrion Arnold, he's just been injured, or whether he's caught up in this crazy legal BS right now. Availability is the best ability, and he has not been very available. So that's never easy when you traded up for a first-round pick. You really don't like to see that. Anyways, yeah, when it comes to the draft, I'm really hoping to see them move up and go grab a top-tier offensive tackle. I really like a Monroe Freeling. I think that's a guy that you can realistically trade up to get. I was doing a couple mock drafts with my guy Spenny at Woodward Sports, and we came up with a pretty decent draft, I would say, grabbing Monroe Freeling first round and Danny Dennis Sutton in the second round, which would immediately give you 2 proven starters in 2 positions that you need most. So, yeah, that would be lovely if that's something that we could get done. Other than that, maybe go grab a safety, go grab a guard. We have to come at this with a sense of urgency, like an extreme sense of urgency. I need Brad Holmes to put on a masterclass like he hasn't since 2023 with Gibbs, Campbell, Laporta, Branch. We need that kind of a draft again. So, we'll see what we can get. Hoping that with the far easier schedule this year, and maybe, some other teams in this conference not necessarily getting better, maybe treading water. I think Minnesota got better with the addition of Kyler Murray. I think you can pretty easily say that because J.J. McCarthy was just not a proven asset, not ready for NFL competition. So, that guy is definitely a threat, or Kyler Murray, I should say. I think Chicago is still probably who I would favor to win the division. Of course, they are going to have a difficult schedule this year, and they have lost a few pieces. Jaquan Brisker being the first that comes to mind, which is a guy that I was actually pretty upset that we didn't go grab. But, he had a contract that seemed doable and filled a need that we, could really use. But that being said, really looking forward to, and also, in a way, dreading this upcoming draft. Stick around for segment 2, where we are going to take a look at the Detroit Red Wings March free fall and what is it going to look like for the next week going forward as Red Wings fans. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to segment 2 of Gordie's Detroit Sports Catch-Up. Before we get started with the segment, I'd just like to ask you guys to please like, comment, subscribe. If you want to share this to a friend, anything helps. as I'm trying to grow a substantial following here for all of you devoted Detroit sports fans. Anyways, without further ado, let's talk about some Red Wings. So, Detroit Red Wings are not looking great so far, coming off of a overtime loss in Dallas, which felt like a miracle that we got a point out of that. Lucas Raymond kind of pulled a rabbit out of a hat with that one, and helped to keep the boat afloat, if you know what I mean. But unfortunately it's looking really bleak for the Detroit Red Wings, as our game earlier in the week against Florida, he goes out with a knee injury that looked gnarly, and when that happened, my heart sank, because he had gotten shaken up against Florida 2 games prior, and took a pretty nasty cross check to the back. And if that didn't make me nervous, this put a hole in my stomach, if you know what I mean. Like, this was bad. This was really bad. Without him, and then also without Andrew Kopp, you have almost nobody on this roster that can confidently take a face-off. It's not great being in this situation, especially when you still have teams in the East that are fighting their way into a wild card spot. You have Boston, you have Columbus, and you still have a few other teams that are trying to stay in there. But yeah, when I look at the playoff picture, it's not looking very good. And this is a team, unfortunately, that I wasn't totally sure if we were ready for playoffs. And without a Larkin long term, this roster is nowhere near ready for playoffs. And I think a lot of the Larkin haters out there, I don't really understand how you can be a Larkin hater when in the last 2 years, when he's gone out with a big injury, this team has looked terrible without him. And people are like, oh yeah, but he's always out hurt in March. Well, no shit, dude. What I don't understand, a lot of these non-puck knowers, or not, you know what I mean, people that don't have a great understanding of hockey and treat these timelines kind of the same as some other sport franchises. Listen, the NHL season's very, very long. There's a lot of traveling. It's a very physical game. There is no load management crap like there is in the NBA. These guys are out there playing their asses off, day in, day out. Eventually, physically, it's going to catch up with you. Especially when we have a guy like Dylan Larkin, who just gave it his all at the Olympics. Won a gold medal, but now his team is likely going to make miss playoffs for, the however many times it's been in a row. So that's really disappointing. With him out, like I said, this team's chances just don't look great. I am also very concerned about the injuries to MBN and Rasmussen a little bit, but especially normally I wouldn't be too concerned with a Rasmussen injury, but when you already have Larkin, Kopp, and MBN, a guy that you brought up to come in here and fill a gap in that forward group, it's looking bleak. We're starting to look like, the Detroit Griffins, or, like it's bad. It's really bad. You got a lot of AHLers on your roster right now, and you're trying to tread water in the toughest division in hockey that we've seen in 10 years. It's absolutely brutal. You don't like this kind of a situation, especially when, this is the first year in a lot of years that the Red Wings, we've been, highly optimistic going into a season. The last however many, 2-3 seasons, it's been like, okay, well, this team might be good, but it's more so, trying to see some magic out of the young guys and hoping that guys like DeBrincat and Larkin, you bring in a goalie like John Gibson, who's been pretty stellar this season, can win you more games than not. But now, this season, it's really felt like we've had a complete roster. And as soon as it felt like there was one game, it felt like we had a complete roster. I believe that was, who was that against? Ottawa? It was Justin Folk's first game. That was the first game that I genuinely felt good about this defense, and scoring-wise, they were in a bit of a slump. The special teams units have been pretty atrocious without Larkin. Our power play has been disgusting. In the last 15 games, the Detroit Red Wings have gone 4 for 43. That's a 9.3 power play percentage. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Now, in the beginning of the season, I was like, we're going to overtime. This will work within the Red Wings' favor because we're pretty good when it comes to power play and overtime. Now, I absolutely dread it. I dread every single time there's a penalty because whether it's penalty kill or power play, I feel like the Red Wings have just as good of a chance of getting scored on. And yes, that is with a man disadvantage on the PK. It's been, man advantage on the power play. It's been bad, but we can't totally give up hope yet, right? We have a slate of in-division games coming up, throughout this week, and if we pick up a few really crucial wins here, all against in-division teams, we can put ourselves in a very good position again, because these are basically, what I would say are 4-point swing kind of games. You get a win over, a Buffalo and a Boston, all of a sudden, things don't look too bad. That being said, all of these teams are starting to get really hot. So the first game that you have to win, absolutely have to win, you have a layup against Calgary on Monday night, tomorrow night, or if you're probably watching this on Monday, so tonight, 7 p.m. You got to have that, and then Thursday we've got Montreal, so that's going to be a tough one. I'm 50-50 on my prediction for that game, so real helpful. But I think that one's that's a dice roll. That's tough to gauge. Next, you got Boston. Boston always is a tough matchup for us. They out physical us, and they scrap it together. They do well on special teams. Makes it really hard for the Red Wings, I should say makes life hard. So, I'm honestly expecting them to drop that one, unfortunately. And I think the next two, you should have a very good shot of winning. And I know you guys might be confused on one of these, but just let me explain. So, the fourth, we got Ottawa. They're going to bring it for this one. They've got to bring it for this one. I think they win this game, but I think it'll be close. I think you make sure you keep a John Leonard and a Perron around to physically beat up on Brady Tkachuk. Make sure that he stays at bay, or you just send Eddie at him again. But I'd rather not have Eddie taking any penalties, because he's a very important guy that we need out on the ice as the talent begins to dwindle. Yeah, it's going to be tough because both these teams are going to be very pissed off going into it, but especially Ottawa because they lost the last matchup and I believe, have lost the last 2 or 3 matchups against us. So, good luck to the boys, but it's not going to be easy. Finally, we have the Buffalo Sabres next Friday. This one's going to be the toughest one that I've listed off on here, but this is one that I think that the Red Wings can actually achieve. And I know that sounds crazy. I know that might be a hot take, but you can't let this team sweep you. You simply cannot let this team sweep you. I know Buffalo is a very good team, and I'm not underestimating them, but they're not a Tampa Bay. This isn't a team where, you can lose 4 games this season to and be like, it's them. Fuck that. They're still the Buffalo Sabres. You need to pick up one now in the most important stretch of your season to keep your playoff hopes alive. Like I said, wins for these games are 4-point swings. So, boys, get to it. That's really all I can say. We've got our work cut out for us, but I think the Red Wings will at least they're going to get 6 points in this stretch at least, and you need 6 to 8 points to keep you alive. If you don't, it's going to be very hard for you. So, yeah, we'll see. You got to hope that these teams start avoiding overtimes and not getting pity points, because that's kind of something that screwed you last year. Was these teams that kind of for sure had playoff positions, they would let these games kind of drag off into overtime just to get a point out of it, and it's not something that I want to live through again this year, but I am prepared mentally. That'll be it for segment 2 of the episode, and in segment 3, we're going to have a quick chat about Kevin McGonigal and his chances of making the opening day roster. Stay tuned for that next. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to segment 3 of Gordie's Detroit Sports Catch-Up. We're going to go ahead and have a chat about Kevin McGonigal and his chances to make the opening day roster. So I'll start off by saying this. My personal opinion, I think he's got, I would say, a 70-30 split, 70% chance saying that he does make the roster, 30 that he does not, 70% chance to make the team. That being said, I don't like to bet on rookies making it, shooting up the pipeline quickly when it comes to baseball, because it's just not something that happens very often. Not a lot of guys get fast-tracked, but Kevin McGonigal is not just a guy. Kevin McGonigal is the number 1 overall prospect in baseball, pretty much. And the 21-year-old lefty has a lot of things going for him. He doesn't strike out very often. He plays very well defensively, and, at his natural shortstop position. We've also seen him play third base. I think a little bit of second base as well. And very solid contact hitter, but also just has a lot of power behind his swing. So, he's one of those guys that can give you both. He can draw out these counts and get you to, revolve through pitchers quicker, eat through their bullpen, and he can also, let that thing rip and just smack dingers out of the park. So, hopefully, we'll see. He's done very well in, high A. Between 6 rounds of camp cuts, he's survived. He's making it very hard on the Detroit Tigers staff to say no to him, which is always what you want to hear out of a young prospect. And I think especially because of another contract year with Tarek, if he even does decide to come back here, which personally, if I was him, I probably wouldn't. But, if he does decide to come back, regardless of the Tarek Skubal contract situation, this is a do or die year for the Tigers, and making moves like Framber Valdez have signaled that the Tigers think that this is the kind of a year where they can make it to a World Series, or at least to, into a deep playoff run. Yeah, I'm looking at everything right now, and if he slumps in mid-April, that could be enough for not scouts but staff members to put him a little bit lower. He's not on the 40-man roster yet, so we don't know. From how it stands currently, Javi Baez is still most likely to be your shortstop. But what I would prefer to see is Javi move back out to center field and have Kevin McGonigal be your starting shortstop. I think that makes the most sense. You have Colt Keith at third, Torque at first. Vierling, that he might just kind of become a rotational guy, but that is one player, Matt Vierling, who has been having a pretty decent, spring league so far. It hasn't looked bad. He's, I would bet money that he would make the 40-man roster, but Kevin McGonigal has, much more of a ceiling. Zach McKinstry is another guy that could block him from, getting that spot, but I don't know. Z-Mac is another guy that I wouldn't hate to see off the bench. Coming in these late game situations, like, what Jahmai Jones and Wencel Perez and, some of these other guys did for you last year. If you can lower the floor and, elevate the ceiling, that's great. But lowering the floor especially would be pretty nice. And that's what I think, a Kevin McGonigal being a starter could do. Because if he really doesn't work out, then, you move him back down to a bench spot. You give him limited, sheltered at-bats. And, then you put one of your more trusted guys out there in a Matt Vierling or a Zach McKinstry and keep that infield rotating around a little bit. I'm just taking a look at his stats here. It's all kind of standing out with, 27 at-bats. He's got 7 hits, 14 games played. He's got a 259 batting average, 444 on-base percentage, 519 slugging percentage, and, 963 OPS, which, is pretty damn good. Like I said, this is a guy that gets on base, draws out counts. He's got a real patient approach. I remember he drew a 6-pitch walk without swinging. I can't remember who I saw that highlight from, but that was fun to see. It's very low in strikeouts. Only's got 6. Only 1 stolen base, but that's not something you necessarily expect him to do a whole lot of. He is athletic, so it's in his tool bag, but I wouldn't it's not his bread and butter. I'll put it like that. He had a couple of standout games. February 27th versus the Phillies. He had 2 hits in 1 inning and a walk. And March 3rd versus the Dominican Republic in an exhibition game, he went 3 for 3, had a home run and 3 RBIs. That showing, I think, sealed the case for a lot of people. And I'm not gonna lie, kind of sealed it for me too. I think it was also that Phillies game that was one that I was actually able to really like lock into and watch, and I really liked what I saw out of Kevin McGonigal. Like I said, we needed to add bats to this roster, like bats that have a legitimate impact, that pitchers think twice about, laying some meatballs out there for. So, yeah, all in all, I have a lot of confidence in Kevin McGonigal getting called up to the opening day roster. And, in an upcoming video, we can go ahead and probably do a preseason preview. I'll give all of my record predictions and where I think we're going to end up in playoffs, and, my MVP, my LVP, and, yeah, all that and more, hopefully in the next couple of episodes of Gordie's Detroit Sports Catch-Up. But anyways, I just want to thank you guys all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe. Anything helps. Yeah, without further ado, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next weekend.